And welcome back to Varsity Sports Now. We shift gears a little bit here, talking track and field for the second straight week here on Varsity Sports Now with our track and field expert, Alex Heinert, joins us now to talk a little bit about what's been going on. Alex, there's been some great performances, and this is all exciting because it's leading up to at least one, and if you consider state, even more than one really big event here over the next month and change here in both North and South Dakota. But let's talk about some of the best performances that we've seen so far and start with South Dakota.
Sure. In South Dakota, it's been a good spring so far for some of our schools in the area. Jack Lemke, a kid from Sioux Falls Roosevelt that's going to be throwing for the University of Washington next year. Champion last year in the shot put in the discus, already has exceeded some of his marks that he's thrown a year ago. 63 feet in the shot, 190 feet in the disc. That's an outstanding mark for him. On the girls' side, Alexis Gannon from Brookings, outstanding stuff. We were talking two-time champ in the long jump and a triple jump champ as well. Has already jumped 18 feet 8 inches so far in the long jump. Just did that the other day at the Brookings quad meet. Across the disciplines, you can look down the list. In AA boys, Adam Belhaj and one of his biggest competitors, Cam Holmes of Brandon Valley, Belhaj of Lincoln. Those two have been going back and forth. Some good times in the 400 as well as the 2 and the 1. It's going to be fun to see some of those battles take shape as the spring moves along.
How about North Dakota? There's some athletes up there making some pretty significant marks as well at this point.
Yes, there are. Landon Joachim, the first name that comes to mind from Bismarck Century, a kid that was a runner-up a year ago in the 400, but he's exceeded expectations this year. He's got the top time in the 100, the 200, and the 400 this year, a kid that's really making some noise. Also, Dylan Werner of Bismarck, a kid that is putting up some solid times in the 800. He was third a year ago in that race. Might be running in the Dakota Relays coming up here in a few weeks. Also for the girls, Maggie Schwarzkopf, a kid from Century, great thrower for them, already doing some amazing things in the disc and the shot. It's a fun battle between the Century kids and the Bismarck kids on both the boys and the girls side, but we've seen already, again, just some outstanding performances from both areas.
Always a fun battle when you get Bismarck and Century going at it in anything. Doesn't matter what sport it is, but that's always a fun part of it. Well, you know, some of these names are names people are used to hearing in track and field, some of the best athletes that either North or South Dakota has to offer, and people that everyone knew about that follows this sport. But at the same time, every year there's a couple of athletes that kind of come out of nowhere and surprise some people. Who's doing that to this point?
You know, it's early in the season, but a kid from Sioux Falls Roosevelt in South Dakota, David Mulva, who is an outstanding high jumper. We knew that going in 30 years ago at state. This year, it's been the 100-meter dash that he's really made his mark. 10.74, which is the best mark in the state, comparable to the state winning time of Nate Gary from Sioux Falls, Washington a year ago. That was a bit of a surprise to see him do that well in a short distance event. He's a big, tall kid. You think maybe more of a 200 or quarter miler, but so far in the sprints, he's been outstanding. Shayla Howell, a kid from Class A in South Dakota from Belle Fourche, the best 100 time in the state as well as the best 200, the best 400, and the best long jump mark this year. That's impressive stuff. Up in North Dakota, you think of surprises. Lewis Dobich, a kid from Killdeer, a smaller class up there in North Dakota, has been outstanding in the sprint disciplines, and that's a school that we thought going in that would be a kindred-dominated class, but they got a good shot to make some noise up there in Class B.
Now, you mentioned briefly just the Howard Wood Dakota Relays. Obviously, you and I, people around this area, know what kind of event that is and just how big of an impact it has on the high school track and field scene in our region. But for those who don't, explain how in some ways this event is even bigger than maybe the individual state meets.
Right, and honestly, for some it is. I mean, you're taking a look at a meet that brings in the best athletes from not just South Dakota and North Dakota, but Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska. For some of these kids, it's the best competition they're going to see all season. You're not just going up against kids in your own class, but again, kids across classes, across disciplines, and across states.
Now, the special events are always the biggest deal out of that. They really make a big deal out of those. This year, the spotlight falls to the boys' 800-meter run and the girls' 200. Now, fields for those have not yet been released. They're always impressive, but what can you tell us to this point about those particular events?
Yeah, field we'll know next week who that's going to be. We have a pretty good idea of who the top athletes are going to be. On the girls' side, Courtney Dowling of Pierre, defending state champ in the 100, the 200, runner-up in the 400. She's an outstanding runner, just a sophomore. She's going to lead that pack. Brooke Ireland of Sturgis should be in that field. Macy Denzer also is a Watertown kid that's always been in the mix and in the last couple of years in the sprints. I look for those three to fight it out. Cassie Jones, a kid from Britton Hecla, smaller class in South Dakota, should be in the mix as well. Sierra Stotts, a two-time champ in Class B also. So a lot of good kids in that field. On the boys' side, and this is where we know 4 different states are going to be represented in the 800. We mentioned earlier that Dylan Warner, a kid from Bismarck, has got a great shot to be in that field, but Matthew Rosen, a kid from Jefferson in Minnesota, Carter Lilly from Sioux City East, Jacob Simmons from Sturgis, all those guys should be in the mix. All outstanding runners, well under 1:55 in their times, which is lights out if you're a half miler. So both of those races are going to be outstanding.
Well, and that's what makes it fun, and that's, again, going back to what makes Howard Wood so special is the fact that you see these guys, the best that each state has to offer, coming together, putting them all on one track and saying go and seeing who comes out quickest. It's going to be a lot of fun. And stay tuned to that. We are going to have much more on those Howard Wood Dakota relays coming up here for you on Varsity Sports Now with Alex Heinert over the next few weeks. All right, Alex, thanks a lot.
Yeah, you betcha.
We'll look forward to hearing more about that. All right, well, our cameras have caught a number of great plays over the past few weeks, but only a handful were good enough to earn Jandy's coveted stamp of approval. Find out if this one made the cut after this.
Varsity Sports Now, presented by Shield.